Bitcoin has confirmed a bear flag pointing to further downside, and structurally 2026 is starting to mirror 2022 almost exactly. So let's break it down. Hi everyone, I'm Paul with ArcisFX. Stick around until the end for this week's summary of key levels to watch to inform your trading. But first, 2026 is shaping up to be a mirror of the previous bear year in 2022. But where could the bottom be? 49k, 37k? Let's take a look. So here we have the 2022 bear market. Here's the cycle top of around 69k. And then we entered a clearly defined bear flag with 3 taps of the top. And then we had a confirmed breakdown, a bit of consolidation and messing around before we then had a further move down till we reached the bottom. And now if we look at 2026, here's our cycle top, this time of around 125k. Then we've entered a bear flag with again 3 definable touches. And now just over the weekend, we've had the confirmed breakdown of this bear flag, confirming this bearish pattern and more potential downside ahead. Now, of course, we do need to wait for confirmation this isn't a bear trap where the price action would quickly reverse back into the pattern. We do need to see a confirmed move below what is essentially 86,500, the swing low out of the pattern. But as you can see, the beginning of the 2022 bear market is being very accurately mirrored with the current price action, with the exception of the fact that in 2022, where we are at present in 2026, occurred in April 2022, whereas this is, of course, occurring in January. Lending a little bit of support to the narrative that we could have a shorter bear market this cycle, as opposed to an almost year-long bear market, which happened in 2022. For 2026, we could see the price action bottom out approaching H2 of this year, which could be as a result of many factors, institutional adoption, etc. But nonetheless, we are currently here, and based on current TA, this is likely where we're heading. But where could the bottom be? There's a couple of ways to look at it, and this is just one perspective, but a move all the way back down to around previous all-time highs of 69k, which was a cycle top in 2021, we could see a modest retrace back down to around 69k, 74k. And as previous cycles have tended to retrace back to the previous cycle tops before then bottoming out, as kind of happened in 2022, as the previous cycle top was ultimately around 19k from 2017. If Bitcoin follows the same pattern by essentially bottoming out, approaching the cycle top which occurred before this bull run, which has now happened in 2024 and 5, that would mean the price action would stop at around 69 or so k, which of course, as we've just said, was this cycle top from 2021. But if we continue to have market volatility and uncertainty due to tariffs, trade wars, etc., then we could be in store for an even deeper retrace, and the bottom might look something like this. So this is Bitcoin Daily Realized Price Bottom Predictive, and this line here represents the realized price for Bitcoin. And as you'll see, this is the 2021 top of 69k. You can see how that could be a very viable bottom. That would be more reasonable, but if we do, as I said, have a steeper retrace, then this is the deal. So this is the realized price as we approach the end of the bear market. In the final half of 2022, we had a break of the realized price, and then the price action retraced a further 33% from that break, meaning that the bottom previously was 33% lower than wherever the realized price was. Now here we are again, we have the realized price well below the price action at around 56k, but if the price action does mirror 2021 in terms of its bottoming pattern, then what we could see is a bottom which occurs anywhere between around 49k and 37k. Now, 49k I do consider on the cards as one of the more bearish scenarios for Bitcoin, but I think 37k would be a bit of a stretch considering the amount of institutional interest in Bitcoin. And even though we might have another year of turmoil, which really does oppress the price action, the bulls are going to start to take back control as we start entering this area. So super bearish narrative, 49k, I can see that for sure. But anything deeper than that, I think is a little bit too bearish. But nonetheless, if we look at how Bitcoin is mirroring 2022 currently quite exactly, it doesn't mean that such a deep retrace is necessarily off the cards, but nonetheless, paying attention to how the price action interacts with the realized price at these lower levels could give us an indication where the bottom potentially could be. It would be a little bit foolish to say absolutely going down to 37k like it did in 2022, as obviously things are very different. And since then, during all of this period, we've had a lot of institutional adoption, so I would expect a lesser retrace. But that's a perspective on potentially where the bottom could be. So we have a narrative which is supportive of a retrace to around 60 69k, which would be around here. But if we do end up tapping the realized price, then that means 49k is pretty much in play, and that's a line in the sand I've been paying attention to for quite a while. But that's just a little bit of perspective on what we can potentially expect over the coming weeks and months. And it does highlight, of course, that Bitcoin is firmly in a bear market at the moment. And in terms of changing that narrative, Bitcoin has a tremendous amount of work to do. Given the macroeconomic conditions at the moment, I'm not sure the bulls necessarily have it in them. So paying attention to this swing low at around 86.5k and seeing how the price action interacts with that will give us an indication whether or not we can have a recovery from here. But if we do see a swing low below 86,500, mitigating any potential chance of a bear trap, which we could see Bitcoin launch a recovery from, if we do see another break below 86,500, that would pretty much confirm more downside for Bitcoin from here.
Hi there, I'm James. I'm the founder of ArcisFX. I'd like to personally invite you to join our 24/7 trading group. This is built for traders who want an edge. Inside, you'll get access to live calls on Forex, commodities, crypto, energies, and metals, along with exclusive daily analysis designed to unlock your trading potential. And this in both traditional and now in digital markets. I'm talking Bitcoin, crypto, altcoins, and tethered currencies. You'll gain early access to insider news, real-time updates, real-time support, and premium educational content. If you want to sharpen your skills and boost your success rate, then join me and Paul in this community. This is a fast-growing community of traders who are now writing their own success stories. So don't wait. Join up now. Your edge starts right here.
For now, let's check in with key levels to watch this week. So just to clarify, obviously, what's been happening. Since the 15th of January, there's been a lot of bearish pressure for Bitcoin, and it's come all the way back down from its January bump gains and was unable to hold the support which it had established back in early January. And this was very significant support, made up of the 3-day 200 MA, the 4-hour 200 MA, and 89 to 90k range. And unfortunately, we lost that last week on the 20th of January. Then we did have an inverse head and shoulders pattern, which morphed into a complex inverse head and shoulders pattern. Then we had an attempted break, but that break was just a fake out. One of the reasons why I've got this breakout confirmation line up here at around 92.2k. I want to see a strong break first before I consider coming in on the flip side, and therefore that criteria wasn't fulfilled, and thankfully so, because of course the price action has rolled back over. One of the reasons why we have those confirmation line in place to avoid entering trades which potentially could roll over. And now here we are. This inverse head and shoulders has now been invalidated, and the price action has now come all the way back down to around 86k, bounced, but has now formed a bear flag. And until we see a break against probabilities to the upside, we have to presume more downside from here. Best case scenario would be a breakdown from here and we form a base of some kind. Was ranging here for a little bit, and that potentially could form a double bottom. But we need more price structure, of course, first. But these are the key levels we need to be paying attention to. So first up, we have local support at 86.5k. We have then major support just below at around 84.5k. And if we just scroll back, you can see why this is major support. And invalidation for that is a close actually a little bit lower, below around 83,500. As you can see, we've got these two little deeper levels here. This one is around 83.5k. And if we lose that, of course, any potential bullish narrative for recovery starts to fade away quite quickly. We have local resistance overhead between 90.5k and 91k, and then major resistance above that at around 94.5k, well overhead. And of course, secondary resistance to the price action is also made up of the 3-day 200 MA and the 4-hour 200 MA. So it's a waiting game for Bitcoin, and it's very important that Bitcoin holds local support at 86,500 for any hope of Bitcoin stabilizing and finding its feet on the back of this downtrend. That's it for now. I'm Paul with ArcisFX. Don't forget to like and subscribe and drop us a comment. I'll be back tomorrow with a live stream with James, our first public one, but there will be some members exclusive content at the end. So if you're not already a member, please consider joining. And then of course, I'll be back on Thursday for a more crypto focused live stream, and James will have his traditional commodities and stocks video also early on Thursday. So make sure you look out for that one. It's going to be a good one, I hear. And also, if you're not already in our private group, you can check out the link in the description, as we'd love to have you. And as always, say no to FOMO.